If you look at this series of developments that have been taking place for the last 1 year, obviously we'll get an impression that India under the Narendra Modi is rapidly cozying up to China. What does it mean? India-China relations are trying to be improved. There is a concerted bilateral effort to bring back normalcy into Sino-Indian relations. Let me tell you the series of developments that have been taking place in the bilateral relations. Before I explain to you the latest developments, let me tell you the India-China relations came to a grinding halt subsequent to the Chinese aggression on the border at Galwan Valley. Since then, there has been a significant pause in the Indo-China relations. But now the Indian embassy in China announced that the India will be issuing visas for Chinese tourists. Well, this has not come from somewhere. It is a culmination of a process that has begun several months ago. More significantly, in October last year, October 2024, both India and China agreed for disengagement of troops on the border. What does it mean? Disengagement essentially means Indian troops will get back and Chinese troops also will go back, so that there will not be any possible confrontation on the border. So this is a very important measure to diffuse the tension on the border. So last October 2024, both the countries decided to disengage. So that is the first and the most significant development, because it is obvious that subsequent to the Galwan Valley incident, unless the normalcy is restored on the border, there cannot be any significant breakthrough in relations between these two nations. So therefore, that was the beginning. Subsequently, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping met in Russia and agreed for restoration of normal relations and also to initiate and continue the political dialogue. So the political dialogue on the border question. So obviously after the summit meeting, there has been a concerted effort to normalize the ties. So China has announced its approval for Kailash Manas Sarovar Yatra, which is a very important pilgrimage for Indians. So then there have been various rounds of the higher level talks on border dispute. Our National Security Advisor, senior representative level talks they are called, went to China, and Chinese National Security Advisor, a national Chinese official who deals with the national security, is coming to India. So there has been talks on the border issue. Well, border issue is a vexed and a complex question. It is not so easy to solve that problem. In fact, it has been an understanding between the two nations that keeping aside the border question and continuing the protracted dialogue process on resolving the vexed question of border, India and China should continue to promote trade and other bilateral relations. So this was the understanding which was suddenly and rudely shaken by the aggression in the Galwan Valley. So now that process is being now restored. On one side, the political dialogue for resolving the border question continues. It still remains volatile because still China claims Arunachal Pradesh as its territory, which India strongly objects. More recently, the reports of China constructing a massive dam on Brahmaputra river. We call it Brahmaputra on our side. It has a Chinese name on the other side. This will seriously jeopardize Indian interest because the water supply will become difficult. So there are significant border questions that requires a patient and a sustained political dialogue. But can we stop the entire process of bilateral relations just because the border question doesn't get resolved? So therefore, India and China agreed to continue trade and cultural relations. So therefore, China has restored the permission to the Kailas Manas Sarovar Yatra. Now India has now eased the visas. India is now ready to give visas to Chinese. In fact, in 2018, 280,000 Chinese tourists visited India. It accounted for 2.8% of the foreign tourists. And in 2019, a year later, the total tourists increased to 340,000, which accounted for the 3.1% of the total foreign tourists visited India during that period. So in fact, China, till the COVID virus problem has struck and subsequently the Galwan incident has taken place, China was among the top 10 countries in terms of the arrival of foreign tourists to India. So now that process is being restored now. And there have been high-level political visits too. Our Defense Minister Rajnath Singh went to China for a Shanghai Cooperation Organization SCO Defense Ministers meeting. Our Foreign Minister Jaishankar went to China to attend SCO Foreign Ministers meeting. In fact, Foreign Minister Jaishankar met President Jinping also. And India made it clear that normalization relation between the two nations will be mutually beneficial. So now all eyes are on impending visit, the visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to China sometime this year for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization SCO summit level meeting. Well, if there are no impediments and Prime Minister Modi visits China, it will certainly be followed up with President Jinping's visit in 2026 for the BRICS summit. So this is the process of normalization that has been taking place over a period of time. More recently, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister has again toyed of the idea of reviving the Troika, Russia, India, China Troika, so which is essentially a consultative mechanism between the three big powers in this region. Even if we take the account Russia also, Russia is not certainly in this region, but on the other side, other than the Western world, Russia, India, China, Troika will be a major counterweight to the American-led Western dominance in the global geopolitics. So all these things are happening. These are clear indications that Prime Minister Modi-led India is coming closer to China. Why is this happening? It doesn't mean India-China bye-bye again, but the process has begun. Why? Because it's again a strategic reasons. Well, immediate reason may look like the next impending BRICS summit in 2026. Prime Minister Narendra Modi-led dispensation wants to make it a grand gala event. We have seen how G20 summit, which normally the routine meeting, was transformed into a big foreign policy event. Similarly, Modi government wants to convert the 2026 BRICS summit into a grand event. But if President Jinping doesn't attain the summit, the sheen will go. It becomes a lackluster, because we have seen in the recent BRICS summit in Brazil, where Russian President Putin and Chinese President Jinping did not attain, and as a result, the BRICS lost its weight. So there was not much significant outcome from the Brazil BRICS summit. Already President Donald Trump is coming around heavily on BRICS, is threatening to sanction BRICS. But BRICS is a very strong entity. In fact, the idea of strengthening BRICS is of a great advantage to the global south, as this is what the Prime Minister Modi said in the summit in Brazil. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi wants the presidents of both Russia and China to be present in the BRICS summit to be held in India. That will be a big foreign policy accomplishment for India, especially the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Well, that may be the immediate motivation to normalize ties between India and China. But behind this BRICS angle, there is a substantial angle to the process too. What is the substantial angle? India and China relations should be seen in the strategic context. We have seen during the recent confrontation with Pakistan. What did we see? China was, there was a China-Pakistan nexus which proved to be formidable if, to an extent, though China did not directly participate in the military confrontation, but China was providing the satellite surveillance support. Pakistan was fighting with the Chinese weapons, and India doesn't want a two-front war. What does it mean by a two-front war? War simultaneously with Pakistan and China. We don't want to enter into a situation like Israel, like that of Israel. Today, Israel, see the Israel. Israel is fighting wars in multiple fronts. India doesn't want that. And that too, there is an asymmetry between India and China, at least in military terms too. We don't want to engage in a confrontation simultaneously with China and Pakistan. So that is a strategic objective. Whatever may be the anti-China rhetoric that is distorted every day in the social media by the BJP Parivar, the fact remains that India doesn't want to antagonize China, especially when it is having a tussle with Pakistan. This was evident during the recent Operation Sindoor. Though China was openly supporting Pakistan, we have not seen any Indian leader condemning China during the Operation Sindoor. Nobody from the government or from the Bharatiya Janata Party have even condemned China for actually supporting and aiding Pakistan in the war against India. What is the reason for that? It is again a strategic reason. We don't want to antagonize China, and we don't want to thrust upon ourselves the possibility of a two-front war. So we want to decouple China and Pakistan. It's not such an easy task, we know very well, but because China-Pakistan strategic nexus is deep-rooted, today China accounts for 81% of Pakistani's defense imports. But still we want to ensure that China will not actively come forward to aid Pakistan in the wake of a possible confrontation in future. So that is the strategic objective, to decouple China and Pakistan to the extent possible. And the other thing is, India is a part of the US-led anti-China grouping called Quad. Though we are part of the Quad, though we are critical for United States strategic objective of containing China, we have seen in the recent times that the Quad refused to even name Pakistan. And despite India being indispensable for United States in its efforts to contain China, Trump administration showed unusual love for Pakistani establishment. So what does it mean? Pakistan benefited both from China and United States. On the contrary, India obviously will not get support from China, but even United States did not come forward to support India in such an hour of significance. So given the diabolical stand of United States, given the duplicity of the United States and hypocrisy of the Western world, India wants to ensure that at least its relations with China become normal. And there is a third angle for that. Russia has been putting forth the idea of Russia, India, China trika, as I recently said. India has good relations with Russia. So therefore, any attempt to cement Russia, India, China ties and India, China ties will be a kind of a warning to United States. You can't take India for granted. So we are seeing the Trump's tantrums. So India, in order to maintain its balance in strategic relations, because India wants to ensure its strategic autonomy. We don't want to be seen as a part of any military alliance. Therefore, India believes that its relations with China are important to ensure that kind of a strategic balance and strategic autonomy in the emerging multipolar world order.